Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I am really happy to see all my friends, new and old. A big shout out to the Agile community in Australia for joining me today. Thank you. It means a lot to me and my new friends all around the world. Kat and Shari as well. My name is Vinnie, and I am a nomadic Agile coach. And I am speaking to you today from sunny Perth, Australia. As I am a nomadic coach, I like to give a bit of background of where I am. So please put up with me. Perth forms the state of Western Australia. It is the largest state in Australia. I previously also lived in the state of New South Wales, in which Sydney is the capital. It is the third windiest city. It is the sunniest capital city in Australia. It is also the world's most isolated city. It is so isolated that our borders are still shut. This means our international borders and also our interstate borders are shut. We're only opening and we get to see the big bad world next week. So hopefully that goes through. The other thing is it's the only place in the world where you can see quokkas in the wild. So you might want to look that up. It is the happiest animal in the world. So I am an Agile coach. I strongly believe in education, and I believe that it's a tool that empowers people. I like training as well, and I'm a member organization like the Agile authorized instructor. So that's a wee bit about myself. I'm originally from the UK. So with this talk, I know we're all different times. It's lunchtime, it's dinner time, it's tea time, wherever you are. So please relax, get down, get your cushions, just make yourself feel comfortable. This is as much as your talk as it is my talk. It is our talk. So with that, I hope I can start with the Menti, so just so that we could have the temperature read. I'll start with the Menti. Okay, hang on 1 wee second. There we go. So when I do use the word Agile coach, it does include Scrum Masters as well, because as Scrum Masters, you are coaches as well. So I use that word to match both. So if you could get your phones out and use the code above here, that would be great. Okay, it's working for one person. I've tried to build this talk to be a bit more interactive because I know, we're all just looking at Zoom all the time. So how do I involve you guys as well? I really want to hear from the no lucky me people. So we have 27 people. So it would be great if I could hear from at least 20. Let me know if you have any issues. Hold on to your phones because we're going to go to the next one. Jeff has just said that he doesn't get to work with coaches with Scrum Masters. Well, Jeff, lucky you. Or maybe not so lucky you. We'll find out, right? Okay. If you think we're good to go on to the next slide, Shari? Is everyone okay there?
I think Catherine has the slides, yeah?
Yeah.
No, I think we're ready.
I can prepare the slides. So I can go to the next Menti. So the
next yes.
So the next Menti is, okay, I did go next. Hang on. Okay. In one word, describe what you find most difficult or challenging about working with a group of Agile coaches or Scrum Masters. With one of the talks I did, some people said, like, am I only allowed one word? Some of them got 5, so. Mindset, attitude. And know it all. Egos, inflexibility. Noisy. We can say we are a noisy bunch, aren't we? Strong opinions, not listening. Destructive to productivity. That's a really interesting one. Bad example. Okay. All right. All right. So I shall pause the mentee there. Thank you very much for contributing. Kat and Shari, do you have any announcements, or am I okay to just proceed?
I think you're ready to roll.
Okay, great. Thank you everyone for participating. Okay, so the talk today. Thank you for the temperature read. Now I know how it helps me how to angle my talk as well. So it's called Working with Other Agile Coaches. Ooh, the drama, right? Because nothing provokes more drama than a bunch of coaches or a bunch of Scrum Masters working together. When I actually came up with this topic, sure, if you know me, I have a lot of things that I'm passionate about, a lot of topics, mainly about growth and how I don't like the word transformation, or maybe where have all the POs gone recently? Because in the last few jobs I worked with, there are no POs. But I feel topics like this are important to shed some light on how we work together. I also wanted an element of humor as well, because that's very much me and my personality. And it kind of reminded me of my friend at uni who had this photo of herself in like the worst awkward pose. And I said, why do you have that photo? You should have like a nice photo of yourself, because everyone's looking at your file. Those days we used to actually carry file folders around. And she said, sometimes the best thing is if you're able to look at yourself and have a laugh, you've made it. So that's a bit of the background about this. And drama was also created with Alex Slowly. I would like to give him a shout out and credit how we came up with this. We also had consultation feedback from other Agile coaches. So what you will hear today is not only what I feel or what Alex has contributed, but all of you. And every time I do this talk, it keeps growing. It is a continual improvement talk. So that's just a bit about it. So we've done this, and now it is. So Agile coaches, right? Coaching is a tough gig, and that's something my first practice manager actually said to me. And it's being
okay. How are you doing? Sorry.
Okay. So like with coaching, being a tough gig, you want someone that actually understands you. And this is the top 3 responses that we got. Why is it so important, for us to come together? Somebody that you just mentioned, like, oh, I think this would solve a problem, or this would solve a problem. They just get it. They just get you, and that's something that really helps. With coaches as well, you want someone that you can rely on, someone that has your back. You coach people, you coach teams. as a Scrum Master, you look after your whole team, but who actually looks out for you? Who looks out for us? One of the things about that is as coaches, we can be subjected to being siloed. And when you're in that situation, when you're siloed, you're not actually getting other people's opinions. You're not being challenged with questions or diversity of thought. We all have our own mental models, and we all, can bring something. And if that is missing, then we may be subjected to our own biasness as well. And once we have that forming stage where we start to form, and only then we can start to learn from each other, and then we can start, have somebody look at us and look at assessing our gaps and where we're strong and we're not. So being a lone ranger is not actually the best of times sometimes. And I frequently get asked the question, what happens when you're the only coach there? And it happens, I am there. So what I do is my Scrum Masters, I'm a Scrum, we're part of the team together. And there's also communities that you can also join or reach out to any past jobs that you've had, that community, for example, what we're doing here today. So moving on, we have, when you actually start a new role, or you're in an organization, as much as you are, there are different types of coaches in the system. And it's really important to understand the different types of coaches in the system, because that actually will help you inform the behaviors that a certain coach is starting to exhibit. So when you're actually new on a job, or new on a client, you're assessing the work and what you have to do, but actually you're also, and you might be assessing your coaching peers as well. So just like if you're a developer and you're new on the team, you're like trying to figure out how do we work together, who's doing what. It's exactly the same thing that would happen in a coach team or a Scrum Master team. So if you were to put a label on it, perhaps you're a team coach, you might reach out to other team coaches and see how you want to work together. And different coaches may behave differently, maybe because of our mental models and our values, but particularly, who they're working with as well. That can impact how a person shows up. With the employment types, there are benefits. There's pros and cons to all the employment types. You may have a permanent employee, and they might find it hard to say something because politically it may be not a great thing for the career, or they have KPIs. And if you're a consultant, you feel that it might be better to say, you might be freer to say something because it's a short-term gig and you can impact. But sometimes you may be a contractor or a consultant, and you may feel like an outsider there. And so you may build relationships with the in-house coach. So, you can actually leverage them and have those conversations. So there's no good or bad. It's just actually knowing what our limitations are. Sometimes, as I've actually been in all three, and my preference is number two. That's just me. And sometimes as consultants, things have been predefined upfront. And unfortunately, at times we will have to do what has been contractually agreed upon. So with me, sometimes noticing what they don't say rather than what they say. Okay. So if you're part of a Scrum Master team, if you have community of practice or working coach, how many of you actually have done coaching, a team charter, or a social contract? Anybody? Sure, you have, as part of the coaching group? Okay, you have? Brilliant. So most of the time, what we find is this is something that we ask of our teams, but something that we don't do ourselves. And fundamentally, this is important because, like any new team, a bunch of Scrum Masters or coaches, we're starting to form. we're starting to learn about each other. And what happens is it's a good starting point for us to see how we want to work together, what behaviors we want, but more importantly, it's a reflection tool. Ultimately, for me, is to gain that alignment as a group of coaches. How do we align? You know, for me, it's always firm with your vision, but flexible in your steps. So we don't want everybody just doing their own thing. We celebrate that diversity. The alignment is really important. In a lot of companies, people do watch us more closely than other people, you know, because we're coaches. It's agile, you know, this is our thing. So it's always be very mindful of, you know, what we do and what we ask of people, and whether how we do it ourselves. With this, you know, it's similar to the teams that we work with. We do it, it's nice, and then we forget about it. It's never reviewed. So if you have done it, Shari, have you reviewed it? Do you review it? You know, what plans do you have to review it? This is an example of a real coaching charter that I have. One of the things that you could add is like times, what times suit each other, what kind of meetings you want to have, you know, like what, okay, so for example, you will have John picks the kids up, you know, from this time to this time, and or, you know, so and so finishes work this time, or, you know, we can agree that all meetings should be 45 minutes. Just get to know each other as well. What tools do we want to use to communicate with each other, and, you know, how do we have fun? Recently, I did a coaching team charter, and we decided to have everybody would type in what their song of the week is, and that actually creates discussions, because people actually take an interest. You know, your song of the week could be how you're feeling, and there you see, you know, it's a really great way for a team to start bonding and coming together. But please make sure that, you know, you actually review it, and it's there for you, and then you call out the behaviors when you see people are not living to it. Yes, there's a team working agreement. Thank you. I've just seen the comment. Yeah, retro is a perfect place to review this as well. I want to get to the next slide. Okay, here we are. Okay, here we are. Big topic, right? We agree, you know, that when, as a coach, we seem to always have empathy for people we work with. We have empathy with the teams we coach with, our team members, our leaders. But what about empathy for ourselves? You know, as a bunch of coaches, who's looking after us? It is a two-way street. So empathy for other coaches and other Scrum Masters, but always start to have empathy with yourself as well. Personally, I struggle with that. I'm trying to be better at that. But as a coach, right, if you can actually help someone understand their challenges, it will help you be a better coach, because with empathy, only then you can start building that understanding with each other. Right? You have someone that you can talk to, someone that you can rely on. And if there is no empathy, then you'll probably be, you know, less patient or exhibit behaviors that you don't want. Because ultimately, what we want to do is we want to build a culture where this is a norm. And a great way to do that is to also even reflect on your social contracts that you have built with empathy and understanding and culture. Then very naturally you have trust, which is ultimately what we want, right? Because you always look at people, and, you know, I invite you to reflect somebody that you trust, and that person that you trust, would it be somebody that keeps saying, you know, trust me, trust me, trust me? For me, that person that always says, you know, trust me, that's the person I'm like, oh, you know, what are you doing? So naturally, all of this comes together. This takes time we know that whenever we're working, we always start with building relationships, right? Because if you don't have that relationships, then it's really difficult to influence change. So spend time here. A lot of the times, building relationships is something that people don't invest in. And that very naturally flows to having fun. We tell our teams that we coach, to have fun. We tell them, save some time for, having a coffee daily scrum, or going for a team lunch or a team breakfast. This is actually something really important, because this is actually the science that builds the high performing teams, teams that gel together, they understand together. What you want is, building on a great team. It doesn't matter if it's a team of developers, a team of leaders, teams of marketing folk. Anything that you would apply at the team level, you would apply at this level. We know this, but are we doing this, right? This will really help in turn, once you get to know each other, not only then you feel that you have that strong foundation, and then you feel open to learn from each other. Because with some people, they're not so open to just say, hey, I don't know this, and I don't know that. But we don't really, it's just like your family, right? It's like, you do need to learn, you need to learn to work with each other. And I'm not saying that you need to invite them to each other's wedding or something like that, but you need to find a way with how you can build relationships. And the important thing is, when you start knowing them and socializing outside the work environment, what will happen is you'll actually find out what are the things that matter to each other, what motivates them, why do they think this way, what are their life experiences that perhaps make people behave in a certain way. You start to understand each other. And then you have that trust and respect that actually goes into hand in hand. So this, for me, it's such a key thing that is missing. And one of the things that I really look back and I really reflect on the great Scrum Master teams, the great coaching teams that I've been a part of, is when I walk away, I think of those coaching breakfasts or Scrum Master bowlings that we had. I have when I first initially moved to Perth, it was COVID, and I was in lockdown. I really didn't know anybody, and I still really don't know very many people, because I spent a lot of my time working in lockdown. But this group of people, in the initial gig that I came here for, even though we've all left and we're all in different companies, we still come together every 3 months. We try to come together for drinks and food. We attempted karaoke, but we couldn't get a booking. So for me, that's my community. That's my support. A few months ago, I had a passing in the family and I couldn't fly back. One of them actually invited me over and cooked a meal for me and things like that. So it goes to show that our relationships can actually be like any other normal relationships if you actually invest and spend some time in this. For me, there is nothing more sad than a team that does not have fun. So if you're not doing that, please make time and space for that. All right, this one. So here we are. If you're not on a great coaching team, you might see some of these personas or anti-archetypes yourself. We see this in each other. And I want to bring you back to that mentee with the word cloud. We actually see this in ourselves. We're all guilty of this. And I know when usually for the slide, people are really thinking, okay, this person is this, and we're all having a little giggle. But honestly, we've been all of this, or in some situations. It depends on the situation, and these are not great behaviors, and we're human beings. The important thing is we catch ourselves, or we have another friend who actually say, hey, this is what I'm saying of you. What can you do? Okay. And, there's this team dysfunction. So I've created a coach team dysfunction. Again, you have different kinds of coaches. Silo coach, the coach with no actual experience, the coach that pushes their own agenda. We know we're there to push to the client's agenda. That's what we need. I've seen bullying and coach with reluctance to work together. It's my way or the highway. We see this in teams. We see this together, and what we want is actually that alignment from that social contract and how we can actually help to address these dysfunctions, right? For me, when you look at ethics, it's such a big thing. I actually believe that ethics should actually be part of the curriculum from Scrum.org or Scrum Alliance to actually put it in there. It is such an important thing for us, and for me, even how we work together, it should be there. It's important that we cover Scrum and the framework and things like that, but often these things are forgotten. And I don't know if anybody of you have actually been in a situation where you have asked to do unethical things. I certainly have, and it has made me uncomfortable. I will share openly with an example. I was asked to performance manage. We know that's not a role of an Agile coach. And it was basically to find points so that person could exit out, some big plan or something like that. But what I did instead is I listened and I said, could you tell me which of these behaviors do you think, I'm not great and I will try my best to coach. So instead of me offering that, I said, tell me what it is and I will help. And after that, I heard nothing. So we are in unethical situations. It does make us uncomfortable and ties back to, having that community and the support system that we can actually talk to. Okay.
So we have a question in the chat about Scrum Masters specifically, Vinnie.
Mm-hmm.
How with coaches versus Scrum Masters, how would it be different?
I actually don't. I don't see it. I don't see it as different. A bunch of coaches, a bunch of Scrum Masters are actually the same. Scrum Masters are actually coaches. So we would actually work the same. And that's what I'm trying to highlight is it's the same for coaches. It's the same for Scrum Masters. You will see this in any team, a team of HR people, a team of, finance people. We go through the same thing any other team goes through. Okay, so what can we do about it, right? So a capability metric. This is, have you done one? Has anybody done a capability metric? So yeah, great. Thank you. 2 thumbs up there. Yeah. So if you've done this with your team, you can do it as part of, your team kickoff, part of your social contract. And what you want to do is you want to amplify your strengths and what your weaknesses are, what you might want to mitigate. It's a great way to know and learn from each other. As coaches, we all have our different areas of strength, different areas that are not so great, different areas that we're interested in, and different areas that we're not. And you might want to pair with each other and give that opportunity to learn and grow, right? So when you do this, it's there's a thing by Management 3.0 that you can use, and you can do this, but it's a really simple thing. All you need to do is just get a spreadsheet and just go, Vinnie likes this, not so great at this, and not so great at that. You can give it a scale, 1 to 4, what you want to do and where you want to pair. But what that actually helps is it actually helps the organization as well. For example, if there's a request from this area or that area, you can go to the capability metrics and you can use those things and say, am I echoing? No? Okay. You can actually say, these are the coaches in the system, these are strengths and these are weaknesses. You want to obviously always leverage your best coach for the situation. I always say I can't be everybody's cup of tea, but I'd rather be somebody's shot of whiskey. So, and trying to feel bad and trying to please everybody, and feeling bad that you're not so good in this and not so good in that. It's time to accept it and pair with each other and grow. For me, one of the things that I really like is I like using the Strengths Finder. There's a survey called the Strengths Finder, and you find, you're nodding, and you find your strengths and what are your top 5 strengths. Gone were the days where we actually said, oh, this is a weakness, and I have to get better and I have to get better. For me, it's like, I'm not so great at this. That's okay. I accept this, but what I'm good, I can get better at that. So it might be a different way of looking at it. Okay, right. Obviously, you should have them, right? We ask our teams to do this. We do it. We should do it. And as Kat mentioned earlier, it's a good time to actually review that social contract. But things that from a not great team retrospective, they apply to us as well. We don't have regular retros. One person gets all the action items. 80% of the time is spent talking by 20% of the attendees, right? So there's something wrong in that team. There's no psychological safety. Nothing gets done. We commit to too many things, or we don't commit to anything, or we just come and we just have this thing where we just release and have a bitch and a moan, and then nothing happens. So it's very, very similar to some of the teams. It applies to us as well. One of the things I highly recommend is to make the retrospective items visible. If you have a board or something, put it there. And this is what I actually ask of my teams as an idea, because if it's not there, it just gets missing and everyone forgets about it. One of the things I've also actually been doing is we often think of things that we need to improve in the retrospective. But how about picking something that we're good at as a team, and then hold on to it, hone on to it. We're good at it, make it better. And for me, it's picking a good thing to ensure that it becomes a habit. Right? How do we make big things into a habit? This is another big thing where for me it is important, because you want people to have fun, you want to do capability metrics, you want to do retros, you want to do all of that, but we actually possibly suffer from fatigue. Sometimes we've been given a whole area. We have 15 teams, or too many things to do, a little bit of everything. Everyone wants a piece of us. We're spread too thin, and in Australia there's something called Vegemite. We just spread it all as long as 10. We coach our teams to sustainable pace. So why is it sometimes that we struggle to say no? But sometimes, it's like we eat the burnt toast, and should we be doing that? We need that time and space to think, to learn and grow, because when we learn and grow, and then we can bring more value to our clients and to our customers as well. I coach, when isolation, that is something that I've come across time and time again. And what do I do about it? I've got my favorite coaches, my community here. I am, remote most of the time, and they're there for me. And I got their back, and they got their back. So it's really important, because ultimately it is helpful to always talk to somebody that actually understands things. With burnout and mental health, I do want to touch on this, because this is such a real thing that it's rarely not very spoken of. We obviously can run into things with mental health. Sometimes we work with things, we're told to do things that we don't want to do, not align with us. Sometimes we know things that are going to happen. And we form relationships with coachees or people that we work with, and it really does put us in a difficult situation. So for me, with my work, sometimes I always cost that bit of extra, to speak to a professional if I need to. Sometimes I sit down all the time and I'm in pain, and so I make sure that I go and de-stress and do remedial massages, right? Mindfulness is such a big thing nowadays in our Agile community. Do we have that time and space? So if a car is broken, right, you'll take it to the mechanic, you take it to the specialist. So if you're facing this, talk. If you feel that you need professional help, put your hands up. There is no shame in this. So we're coming to the end. And what I want to say is, in the end, practice what you preach, live the values, right? The only thing we can change is ourselves. Some of us tend to start up that, we want to change the world and we want to do good, spread. But what we can do is actually control ourselves. We should be role modeling behaviors that we want from people. So try and be cognizant. I certainly try myself as well. And that whole part about learning and growing as well. So for me, I would like to ask all of you today, who is your Agile coach? As Agile coaches, we need to be open to coaching. We need to be coachable ourselves. And it's helpful to also have someone else, and maybe an internal or an external coach, to help us see our blind spots as well. So for me, this is really key and really important. And lastly, I hope you've seen everything come together. Nothing here is new, it's just whether we're doing it or whether we're not doing it. We aren't special. We're not gods. I know some coaches, they think they're like God level. And I remember having this discussion with Alex. We're humans. We're just like any other team. We bleed, cry, go through the same pain just as much as they do. So if you're an experienced Scrum Master or experienced coach work together, you might find some of this not so new, and you may see yourself in it or see other people in it. But if you're new to this journey, then I really hope that helps. But for me, it's like, with this talk, I do want a bit of humor. There is a bit of drama, but drama can be positive as well, right? So with that, I thank you all for coming and listening. I will be taking questions. I hope that we actually gain some understanding about each other and how we work. And there is a quip that always says, the more silent the Agile coach, the larger the mortgage. So I always come from that position where we understand. So I will go to questions, but I just like to finish off with 2 slides. That's me. If you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, please feel free. I'm actually wearing the same top, actually. So yeah. Okay. And while I'm going to take questions and I open it to discussions, I don't want to be the only person talking. I want all of us to contribute to this. I don't have the answers, but together I feel we have these answers. With this, I'm going to put the Menti up, and it's going to be in the background while we have the conversations. It's a bit of a project that I've been working on with all the talks. Have you worked with a coach that is challenging? Tell us a story. Please do not use actual names. Okay.
Vinnie, are you okay with kind of addressing some of the questions that came up through the chat really fast?
Yes, absolutely.
So one question is, what is the meaning about framework coach and the anti-archetypes? Could you talk more about that?
Yes. So for me, the framework coach is the coach that always tries to push a certain framework. That's like their go-to, without actually looking and asking about the problem. What problem are we trying to solve, right? Or, kind of looking at experiments. It's just like, it's always this and it's always that. And it's like, it ties in with pushing the agenda. So I hope that answers you. They've always got that one framework, right? Like, maybe Scrum solves everything when we know it's like BAU work, right?
Yep. This is more of a statement, but you might want to add to it. So this is somebody's opinion. I think Scrum Master must be coach, but coaches not necessarily need to be the Scrum Master.
Yeah, that's true. That can be true. Scrum Masters are coaches, but not all coaches are Scrum Masters. But there are some coaches that Scrum Master as well. It just depends. There are some coaches who they are Scrum Mastering for that coaching group, or they Scrum Master for example, I knew a coach who was Scrum Mastering for a leadership team.
Yep.
And CMR has his hand up.
If you have any confessions, any funny stories, please put it in there.
I guess, Vinnie, thank you. When this was posted up on Meetup, I was very excited to come because I've been struggling with this for the last 6 years, and I've been feeling really guilty as a coach. So I guess I wanna share a hypothesis with this whole group, and my ask is, can somebody tell me you're an idiot, Amar? You are totally being rude, or I see it, or maybe there's truth to it. So 6 years ago, I was part of a large COE of coaches, and we were 23 coaches. It was a very shitty experience. However, I learned a lot. And I learned a lot in the beginning as we went up into small sub-cliques, which spoke to, I guess, what you're speaking about. And everything you said really resonated. Then we placed some corporate structure around it. And that system and that culture suddenly changed things. So I was like, that's it, that's not for me. So I left, and I ended up getting a couple of gigs where I was a solo coach, or just two of us. Then about 2 years ago, I went back and joined a larger group. However, this time I joined as a contractor. So what happened was I was not subject to the performance management construct that this company, this large corporate, had placed on everybody. And then I was a lot happier. I loved it. And I was not even bothered by being part of a large coaching thing. So my hypothesis right now is, it's not so much, we all know this and we all like to show up this way. And yes, we have our differences. But my hypothesis was, most of my struggles came from those individual performance management constructs that encouraged solo behavior, encouraged me being better than Vinnie, me showing up to be better at the framework, and hence it was diluted. But that was my hypothesis. And hence, in my head, if I ever join a large group of coaches, I want to ignore performance management, whether I'm a contractor or an internal employee, and just really work with my mentor, work with the feedback I get. Now, please tell me, how much of an idiot do I sound like, or is there some truth to it? I don't know. Anybody?
I know you're not an idiot. I've been there. I've also, been in that situation where, I was a permanent coach, and, I was subjected to KPIs and things like that, and I had to mine. But then, even as a consultant, there's certain things. As a consultant, you have two product owners, which we all know is not great. You've got the person that hired you, right? You're laughing, and then you have the client, and that's really difficult sometimes, because you try to make everybody happy, and then you forget about yourself. But one of the things I said is sometimes, like, the important thing is we learn and grow. In one of the meetups, one of my friends actually said, like, to actually judge a coach from where they were before, it's a bit unfair, because we're also on all these journeys. So Amar, if we look at you and myself where we come, and someone asks, well, what do you think about feedback? Then that's not really great, because as much as we give other people an opportunity to grow, we also need to acknowledge that we've also come along on this journey. Does anybody want to add on to what Amar says? I know someone's got their hand up, but please, please contribute to this confessions. I know Shari and Kat posted it's like campfire stories, so if you contribute some, I'll also share with you some of my campfire stories. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yep. Thank you. So I think Amar, what you said, it's, in my opinion, it's nothing to do with you, honestly. This hybrid model of coaching in a more hierarchy organization, whether it's a large corporate or a small corporate or a company, but operating in a certain way, itself has this KPI-driven behavior, especially around performance management. And what I've also experienced is that role of a coach is also usually not really understood, especially when we go and operate in these KPI a driven organization. So in my opinion, nothing to do with you. It's more of the environment where you would have operated. So I think, and having the courage to say it itself says a lot about you. So I think you're on the right track. So keep it up.
And sometimes Amar, it's who you report to. Sometimes you see perm coaches and they're reporting to like chief Scrum Masters or like a project manager. What do you do? It's a new. I think people haven't really figured it out yet. Like when you're young, nobody actually says, "Oh, when I grow up, I want to be Scrum Master." It's nowadays, maybe.
Yeah, I get into trouble a lot because I'm a pretty firm believer that Agile coaches should not be perms. I get that companies want to save money, but I've never seen it end well. And maybe that's just my experience. But like you said, you end up getting stuck in that loop where there is no corporate, how to build a better Agile coach. Yeah, you can build internal capabilities, but it's really difficult. And you're also there to be a disruptor and push against that system. And it's really hard to do. Now, I've heard people argue that, yeah, but as an Agile coach, that's a contractor, you're an outsider. And sometimes they need to feel like, you've got skin in the game too. But again, I disagree fully with that, because once you've got skin in the game, that brings in more biases that are contributing to you potentially not doing what's best for the client. And so, yeah, this is one that I struggle with too.
That's awesome, Sally, because I end up having, depending on my mood, I'm 48 and an old grumpy male who doesn't care anymore about people's opinions. So it's good about being a little older. I either have an approach of death or glory, so they're going to get fired or promoted. So I keep on pushing as a disruptor, as you mentioned. But my other, I know, which is not very empathetic, the other less disruptive and less harmful approach, which takes a lot for me to kind of go there, and I hope I can do more often, is to recognize that I can only take the people I work with to a level of agility as the environment around them allows them to, and be okay with it. Sometimes as coaches, we read a lot of books and we suddenly get in the cloud, and we can't blame ourselves by getting, how awesome would it be if I was working in an agile environment? So we push and we can become attached to an outcome. But yeah, death or glory, or the limit of the agility based on the environment that we have. But thank you.
Any more questions, or anybody want to say anything? Any reflections?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, Vinnie, I'm reading this stuff on Menti, and it's told that a social contract was a waste of time, and had to remove it. Been there, done that. And it was really hilarious because the same person who said, you can't have an Agile coaching contract between you, it doesn't match with, my view of how we're going to roll out this program of work nonsense. And then turned around and forced us to use her preferred framework for getting the teams to do social contracts, while telling us that, oh, they're not worth the time and effort, but you're going to go force this on them. Yeah. Unagile behavior from Agile leadership. Love that one.
And I suppose what happens is after that team suffers, right? That team that actually came together and was so happy, like you kind of just ripped them apart. And sometimes you can't undo some of these things. I have been that guy so frustrated that I was forced and was forming a team as well. Just like this, right? Yeah.
I'm not going to put any more on Menti. I'll scare you, because I've worked with one coach that I really, really respect. All the rest, the horror stories are.
Sally. Might that be me?
Yeah, you're the good one. Because even when I disagreed with you, we could talk it out and we could have, well, actually there was one more coach. We fundamentally disagreed on everything, but we managed to work together really well. And we came up with a plan of attack for everything that we did. So at least we were always on the same page. But that's it. And I've worked with a lot of coaches. A lot of coaches.
Currently, I'm alone and alone-ish. I do have another agile coach, but she's gone to do something else. But I have this great group of Scrum Masters, and I've been going through really a difficult time with my rental situation. And this Scrum Master actually came to me and he sat down with me, and it was a new gig. I've only been there for 4 weeks, and he said, "I'm going to try my best to help you." And the next 2 days, he actually came and he checked on me. He said, "I know how difficult it is because it's your home, and I've actually been through similar things. You want to find that peace and tranquility." So when you've actually built those relationships, you just never know. People might just surprise and delight you in so many ways. We can actually build friendships outside just our working thing. And that's science, right? You have Project Aristotle and Google and all of that to actually see what fundamental things. But most of the time, I always feel that we do not have time. We don't make time for each other. We tell our teams to say no, push back, don't take in too much work, at sprint planning, PI planning. Like, how often do we do that, right? Being brought in as an agile coach, but told I should call you.
I can totally relate to that. Like the practice what you preach. Are we modeling? Are we doing it? Are we protecting ourselves?
Yeah. Anything else? Does anybody want to share or contribute? What is one thing that perhaps you think from the talk today that you might go back and want to try? It might even be as simple as review my social contract for the capability metrics we did. No one's looked at it. Shari says, "I speak up on calls with the client. I just get reached out by folks reach out to me on Tribe Message time to admire me for demonstrating how to bring things up in a healthy way." Thanks, Shari. Do you want to just expand on that? Like, share with us some tips. How do you do it?
Well, honestly, it's just taking some deep breaths of your own, but also really just sit there as an observer. You're taking in some details, and you might even lead with that I'm observing this. Is that accurate? Is that true? And like testing out that type of thing. And, I won't go into the details about this specific situation, but it was very inappropriate what the client was doing at the time. And so I really did feel that we as Agilists are here to model the behavior. So for me to remain calm and be able to ask a few curiosity questions and then try to get, as a facilitator, it back on track to what the purpose of the meeting was, and not to burn up time on this particular subject that they were kind of getting derailed on. So it was just more than anything, just staying calm and staying curious.
Okay, well, I know that you have your work morning to get to. Some of us are going to go to bed, but does anyone have one last question for Vinnie? I hope you'll share with us all of these confessions. It'd be nice to see this slide.
I had this plan together with Alex. We have this drama website that was on that. Can't remember. Oh, you're laughing. Thank you for keeping your camera on. I like faces. It was on this. Is it like Post Secret? Do you remember? In America, they had this postcard. Anybody remember that project? The website called Post Secret. Yeah.
Oh yes,
Yeah. So I had the similar software, you know, I have the domain and everything. I just need to start doing some work around it. Because I think like there's nothing better than just to look at it and then, oh, I did
이거
that.
사람이 오면 정말 이거.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Vinnie, for joining us in Denver, and for everyone who's joined us from so many different places. I think this is the most diverse group that we've had. So thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Vinnie, for joining us and fitting us into your workday, and for bringing us some drama.
Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity as well. Shari, all the best. I just want to say a big shout out to both Kat and Shari. The way they worked with me and they engaged with me, it's definitely, I think, three of us would be part of that high performing coaching team.
Great. We don't want to end up here on the wall of shame. Thank you for that feedback. All right. Bye. Have a great day, everyone. If it's your day, or a great evening.